Hello and welcome. Today we're going to explore the fundamental unit of life, the cell. But I want you to just forget that simple blob of jelly you might remember from biology class. We're about to see the cell for what it really is, a complex, bustling, and perfectly organized microscopic metropolis. I mean, just think about that for a second. What if you aren't really a single entity, but more like a massive nation made up of trillions of individual cities, each one with its own infrastructure, its own factories, its own government, all working together? Well, that's pretty much exactly what your body is. And today, we're taking a tour of one of these incredible cell cities.
All right, let's dive right in. First stop on our tour is going to be a quick look at the city's overall layout, because just like any metropolis, it's got these distinct districts, and each one has a very specific job to do. So, the entire living substance of our cell city is called the protoplasm, and it's basically divided into two main areas. First, you've got the nucleus. Think of this as a heavily fortified city hall. It's the absolute command center of the whole operation. Everything else, all that sprawling urban landscape where all the action happens, that's the cytoplasm. Okay, so let's leave City Hall for a bit and head out into the streets, right into the industrial heart of our metropolis, the cytoplasmic factory floor. This is where the city produces literally everything it needs to survive and thrive, and the whole place is powered by thousands of tiny power plants called mitochondria.
So, what's the main business of this city? What's its #1 export? The answer is proteins. Proteins are the building blocks, they're the tools, they're the machines, they're pretty much everything. And the tireless work of making all of them happens in these countless little factories called ribosomes.
And check this out. This is the super sophisticated production line. First, those ribosome factories, a lot of them are located on this huge highway system called the rough endoplasmic reticulum. They build the proteins, then these brand new proteins travel through this whole network of canals in the ER. Finally, they get to the Golgi apparatus, which is kind of like the city's central post office. It modifies, sorts, and packages the proteins up, ready for shipping them out wherever they're needed. And you know, our city has different industrial zones. We just talked about the rough ER, and it's called rough because it's literally studded with all those little ribosome factories. But there's also a smooth ER. Think of this as a more specialized kind of workshop. It's busy making things like lipids and steroid hormones. In muscle cells, it's got this super important job of managing the city's calcium supply, which is what makes muscles contract. A totally different kind of manufacturing going on there.
All right, so we've seen the factory floor. Now it's time to get top-level security clearance and visit the most important building in the entire metropolis. We're heading back to City Hall, the nuclear headquarters.
This quote really says it all, doesn't it? The nucleus isn't just important, it is essential. It's the presiding officer, the government that runs absolutely everything. If City Hall is compromised, the whole city just collapses. The really crucial thing to get is that all that work we saw happening out in the cytoplasm, it's all being directed from right here. And this shows you exactly how those orders get sent out. See, inside the nucleus are the master blueprints for the entire city. That's the DNA. So when a specific protein needs to be made, a copy of that one part of the blueprint gets made. This copy is called messenger RNA, or mRNA. You can think of it like a work order that's sent out from City Hall through special pores in its walls directly to the factories out on the cytoplasm floor.
And there it is, the master blueprint itself. This beautiful, elegant double helix structure contains every single piece of information needed to build, run, maintain, and even replicate the entire city. It's honestly one of the most incredible and efficient information storage systems in the entire known universe.
So, we have this master blueprint. But how does this all lead to one of the most amazing events in the life of our city? How does a metropolis that's running perfectly manage to create an exact copy of itself? Well, it happens through this stunningly organized process called mitosis. Let's just walk through it real quick. First, in prophase, the city's blueprints get copied and then coiled up super tightly into these little packages called chromosomes. Next, in metaphase, all those paired up blueprints line up meticulously right down the center of the city. This is a super important step to make sure the split is even. Then you get anaphase, where the copies are pulled apart and they start moving to opposite ends of the city. And finally, in telophase, a brand new city hall, a new nucleus forms around each set of blueprints. And then the city itself just divides, and you end up with two perfect identical daughter cities. It's incredible. Okay, for our last section, we have to ask a really important question. What happens when things go wrong in our cell city? What happens when the infrastructure starts to fail? Or maybe the blueprints have an error in them? This is where it all gets very, very real. The
The city's border, its cell membrane, it has these specialized gates called ion channels that control exactly what gets in and out. If these gates don't work right, the consequences can be just devastating. As you can see here, a faulty chloride channel gate leads to the transport problems we see in cystic fibrosis. A broken sodium channel gate in the kidneys can cause something called Little's syndrome, which leads to high blood pressure. So a tiny little error in one of these tiny gates can trigger a citywide crisis.
Here's another really powerful example. In Duchenne muscular dystrophy, the DNA blueprint is actually missing the instructions for a key structural protein. That's like a city trying to build its skyscrapers without any steel beams. The result, just like the quote says, is a disruption of the membrane. The city's very walls and foundations start to crumble, and that leads to the cells degenerating. It's just a stark reminder of how one single missing part can cause a total system failure.
So, as we zoom out from our single-cell city, it leaves us with one final thought. If each one of our cells is this intricate, self-sustaining metropolis, then what does that make us? Well, it makes us a nation of trillions of these cities, all cooperating, all communicating, and all operating from the very same master plan written in our DNA. It's a truly staggering level of complexity, and it's happening inside you right this very second.